So tell me about Nexus. How'd this start?
Yeah. How far back do we want to go? I've told this story a few times, so I kind of have a little bit of a flow to it.
Nexus Coffee,
Mm.
and you were talking about the high school test to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur. So that kind of planted a seed in my mind where I was like, okay, I had to, Google it out there. Okay, someone who starts a business. And I didn't get a lot of good advice from my mom growing up. One good piece of advice that she did always kind of ram into my head was the only way you get ahead is if you work for yourself. I think she got that from her dad, who was a successful entrepreneur. He had a pretty large company and sold it in the 90s. And so she got to witness kind of that journey of him building and then selling it. Went to university, and when we're at our little should we do like the long form podcast
Whatever
version
you
of
want.
this?
Yeah,
Okay, all right, all
yeah.
right. Well, I don't know what the listeners might be into here if they just want a quick little spit.
Well, if they're interested in coffee, everything will be in
Yeah.
everything will be in the description, and they can find your coffee places.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll
Yeah.
we'll bring it back, and we'll make sure we cover what you do.
Yeah. So we had this little circle, this little group at my university where we went around. It was like we're freshmen, we're incoming. They line us up and they're like, "What do you want to do after university? Like, what is the goal here?" And I remember going around and I'm just like, it's coming to me. And I'm like, shit, like, I don't exactly know, you know, get to the kid right before me, young, handsome cat out of Portland. And he's like, I want to be an astronaut. I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? I got to follow up astronaut guy. And it gets to me and I'm like, I don't exactly know what I want to do, but what I do know is I want to be my own boss. I want to have my own business. And that was a very authentic kind of response in that sense. So fast forward a couple of years, I started working in a coffee hut. And at this time, I'm also in the entrepreneur club at my university. And I'm doing things like Startup Weekend. Do you remember that org that went around? Basically, they went around and hosted.
I was homeschooled.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're like a Luther kid.
Hi, folks. Quick note from me. If you don't already know, the goal of Mountain Mule Media is to build real connection between Montana's businesses and the people they serve. If this episode or any other has given you something worth thinking about, smiling at, or passing along, I've got a small ask. Share it with a friend, text it to someone, post it in your story. That one simple action helps these businesses get seen, grow, and thrive, and it helps this show keep going. Thank you for supporting these Montana businesses. Now back to the show.
One cool thing about university is it is kind of like a cool melting pot. And then, things come through. And I went to a large university, the University of Oregon, and we did startup weekends. And so you kind of got to see it was kind of like a mini little Shark Tank weekend where you get together, someone would pitch business ideas, the top ideas would get selected, you break off into groups. At the end, you'd come together, present your project.
You're working in the coffee hut when you're in university?
Yes, when I'm in university. And when I'm working in the coffee hut, I'm seeing this insight into, wow, this is a really lucrative business for both the employee and for the customer. Go off, I live abroad for a little bit, come back to Bozeman. And when I get here, first thing right away, I'm like, God, one of those like coffee huts that I work at would absolutely crush it here. You know what I mean? And decided to try to take the corporate route for a little bit. Didn't work out. Worked for a couple of startups in town. One of them still going pretty strong. And then came COVID. So I was doing all kind of the fuck around Bozeman jobs. I was not that these aren't legit jobs, but some things trying to find my way. Turning over different stones. And COVID happens. Getting the free money. Do you remember the free COVID bucks when they were just kind of handing out? Yeah, that was a pretty awesome summer. So that was happening. And then I pulled out my laptop and I was checking my payments. I only had like 3 unemployment payments left. And when that was coming to an end, or when I saw that was coming to an end, I realized I really have to figure this out. I gotta make a move. Pull up my laptop, or I'm already on my laptop, I guess. Looking, as I pull up Indeed, and I started looking at Indeed for like 30 seconds. And at this time, pre-COVID, the job market in Bozeman was really tough. It's still pretty tough, especially for like young professionals, and I exit out of it in like 30 seconds. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I can't go like trade my time for like the measliest, like the best measliest pay that someone's going to offer me. So at that point, I just kind of decided myself, I'm like, I'm going to draw a line in the sand and I'm going to work for myself. I didn't know what it looked like, but I like in that moment, I commit to myself, I'm going to figure it out. So one of the first ideas that I came back to was this coffee hut idea. Started researching, found a coffee hut for sale in Four Corners, set up a meeting with the guy. Went in, my sister attended the meeting with me. She's into a lot of business acquisitions in her profession. Sat down with this guy, talked to him, and she was like, we got done, and he wanted X amount of money. And she's like, what value do you think like this guy like is bringing? And I'm like, none. Like I can do this on my own, And then like 2 days later, very serendipitously, I found this coffee hut that was empty right by my house. It was like 5 blocks away from where I lived, right in the heart of Bozeman. And I drove by and I was like, how have I never noticed this thing before? And it's kind of off the road and it's painted like kind of drab. And anyways, I make a few calls to find out who owns it. Get patched in right to the person. She answers straight away and she's like, this is the lease amount. And I was like, sick, I'll call you right back. So yeah, that's kind of the origin story, and took out a small business loan and started from there.
So that is that one in the location where your original one is?
Yes, that was the flagship. We call that one 7th.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where the Sapphire.
Yeah, the Sapphire Motel.
Yep.
Yeah. At the time was the Royal 7. I mean, that's how OG this hut is. It was before the name change. The other claim to fame that I like to call is when people ask me like where my coffee hut is, I tell them it's across from the food truck court on 7th. Yeah. Everybody knows where that is. Yeah. And the cool thing that I like to say is the only person who beat me to that part of 7th was Ramirez Mexican Food. They were there and they had their grand opening sign. Yeah, as I opened up. So I got really close with them at the beginning, but now it's just hopping over there. It's really grown.
And you've since opened a location in Belgrade.
Yep.
On Jackrabbit.
Yes. And
is that Ace Hardware?
Yeah, it's right next to Ace Hardware. Yep. Ace was actually my landlord there. Okay. So that one came from, I actually was kind of getting a little bit of, I learned a little bit of a business lesson here. Someone was kind of encroaching on my brand, it felt like.
Oh, wow.
And so I got a little motivated to go expand because this person was, it felt, I don't think they actually were, but it felt to me that they're encroaching a little bit. And they got a coffee location that I always wanted. But then I realized, I'm not doing like the groundwork. I didn't know who owned this. I never talked to them. I never told them I was interested. So then I started looking again, found this Belgrade one, and went and cut a deal with them and purchased that.
And I think I would just say, I used to stop them a lot more because I was on the road a lot more before just where my business was, I was driving a lot more.
Yeah.
And they're both in very good locations.
Yeah. Yeah. So that Jackrabbit one was actually my 3rd location. I have a 2nd location in the Bozeman Health Hospital.
Okay. That's one I haven't been to, but I've heard of it.
Yep.
Where is it located in there?
So entrance 7, it's right next to the cancer center.
Okay.
Yep. And I have a whole kind of crazy serendipitous story with that one too. But yeah, so first I had the first hut for 2 years. About a year later, I was contacted by the hospital actually to go in there and took that one over. And that one's doing splendid. I don't really promote it to the public because it's more for the staff and the patients of the hospital. Yep. I don't really imagine anybody's going to drive over there, hop out of their car, go into the hospital.
Like destination coffee.
No. We're trying to provide a really good product for all the hardworking people at the hospital. And being there for 3 years now, there's a lot of hardworking people there.
And I think having a good quality coffee, regardless of your reasons for being there working or, unfortunately, if you have to be there, a lot of the stigma around hospital food and coffee
is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I took over the shop, I got to see kind of what they were doing before, and not to bash them, but they're not in the coffee biz. So, they're using this machine that I don't think is really up to snuff and probably getting really cheap products, things like that. And so we've tried to turn that around, and I think we've done a pretty good job. I think they're getting a lot, they're getting like a public business type quality service and product in the hospital. So they're stoked on it. Yeah.
How does that model work compared to the huts? Is it similar? Do you guys do anything differently there, just being that it's in a building like that?
Yeah. We do a little bit differently. We're not kind of promoting as much. They're just kind of, Nexus is mentioned just in one small place on the menu board. And everybody knows that it's associated with that just because it's been there for so long. But yeah, that's different. Other than that, like our business operations pretty much the same. A lot of our employees are cross trained, so they can work both the hut and the hospital. Um, yeah, so different in nature, but in operation it's very similar.
Do you do you ever envision a day or have a plan where you want to have a a full coffee shop, sit down, more food? Do you like the model of the, which I think is a great model, just looking at it from a business sense.
A
It
hundred
makes
percent.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think I'm actually quite clear that I don't ever want to have a coffee shop, and the reason being is yeah, because the business model. I really like the hut model. I mean, a lot of times you pay rent by square foot,
Yeah.
and rent around here is quite crazy.
Yeah.
I think that might shift in a little bit. I don't know how much we want to dive into like the lay of the land right now in Bozeman, but land is really expensive, and a lot of people who are doing big developments have their hands on it, and so we could talk about that. But basically, the future of what I see of any new development in Bozeman, what I've experienced in inquiring, is a lot of it is going to be probably like corporations coming in.
So I look at it from my business. I've got the private transportation.
Yep.
I own all my vehicles. I've got SUVs and now have a bigger 14 passenger van. It's a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
And you look at an Uber model, and Uber as a company, every employee holds the overhead because they own the vehicle. And it's a, I think about it all the time. That's why I like that model, because you go out and, you're like you said, you're renting a lot of square footage.
Yeah.
That's a big overhead payment, whether you're leasing or owning probably more expensive. I mean, maybe not long term, but it's expensive to own real estate.
It is. Yeah, it is. And if you're young guys like us, maybe it's hard to find the place to scrounge up the capital for projects like that. Yeah, so definitely love the coffee hut model. And I think it's just a little bit of a different approach to the coffee business where I think there's a lot of really incredible cafes here, a lot of competition in that sense.
Yeah.
And not that I think competition is really good for business, but I think for Nexus, we're trying to stay in our own lane and do the coffee hut thing and provide a different service. So if you want to get into like the kind of nitty gritty business mindset, when I think about market share and things like that, I'm thinking about taking market share from Starbucks and from City Brew, not from any of the awesome brick and mortar coffee shops we have.
And I live by that motto too. I love the small business in Montana, and it puts some of us in tough positions, because I think of a place like Costco, and I need to buy inventory and supplies for my business, and it's such a great value.
Yeah.
But I want to support the smaller business, and it's tough, but I totally get it. And I see a Starbucks and a City Brew, and nothing against them, but they're, it's a lot of corporate money. It's not somebody who's bootstrapped to pull this together. And I can just appreciate that as a American who grew up on a farm.
Yeah, 100%. Quick, interesting note about Costco, and maybe this ties into my business ethos a little bit. I'll kind of give that explanation. Maybe the people will be interested in, what Nexus means and what we kind of stand for. But when I started here, I was trying to find the most local milk. My kind of position on how I want to handle my business. Nexus, the definition of a nexus is the point where things are coming together. And so for me, that's the point where I can bring all the different local businesses together. So I get local beans, I get local pastries, I get local burritos. When I was searching for local milk, Kalispell Creamery, not that local. No, there's dairy farmers here. There's a Dairygold plant here. But the like name brand one I can find is coming all the way from Kalispell, and it's super expensive. So I went to kind of my coffee mentor, and I asked him, I was like, hey, who are you guys using? And he's like, get this. All the dairy farmers in town have a contract with the Dairygold factory on 7th, on the same street that I'm at. And their largest account is the local Costco.
Oh, wow.
So as far as I know, I haven't researched into this too much. So if anyone's listening to this, like, that's bullshit. Sorry, this is just what I was told. But from as I understand, the milk that's being produced in the Gallatin Valley a lot of it is being sent to our local Costco.
That's good to know. And I worked on a dairy farm in Bozeman years ago, and
maybe you have more insight. Yeah.
Well, I know they said Dairygold is where their milk went.
Yeah.
You could look at it, and what you would think, just from being in the dairy industry, like most likely everything on the shelves in here came from farms all over the country.
Yeah.
Because that's just it's a melting pot, and but there is a plant here, so that That'd be good to know. And I'm curious.
Maybe we should look into that more.
Yeah.
It seems like you might have better insight into that. But
I'll
like I
see
said,
who I can track down
it
from the
was kind of a
local.
convenient thing to learn for me. I
Yeah.
don't know. So I didn't really look into it much more than that because I was like, oh, cool, that's the best value. I'm gonna use that. I don't think much else from Costco is coming from a local source, but
Yeah. I agree.
yeah, yeah.
I like the Cowspell Creamery milk though. It's very good milk.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all up on their Greek yogurt. Every time I go to Town and Country, it's sold out. It's so frustrating. I'm like, can't you guys order more of this? Because
Yeah.
it's and yeah, shout out TNC. They have a lot of local products, but the Cowspell Creamery Greek yogurt hits, and it's always sold out. Everyone loves it.
I agree. I'm a Town and Country fan as well.
Yeah, TNC.
That's where I go.
Yeah,
As far as coffee, who do you get your beans from?
Ghost Town.
Cool. I'm a huge fan of Ghost Town, and I'm gonna admit this, but I only drink decaf.
Oh,
So
all
shame on
G.
me for all the coffee connoisseurs, which
Yeah.
you might be.
Yeah.
But the process and how they separate from what I understand, they separate the caffeine out.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it can be a lot of companies use a lot of chemicals to do it, and they do it in a way that doesn't require any of these chemicals.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, it's the best for me as well.
Yeah,
And it's very good coffee.
it very well could be. The way that I understand decaf is made is they like essentially like roast the shit out of the beans, and they roast them so much that the caffeine component disappears.
One of the guys at Ghost Town, I don't know his position in it, and unfortunately I can't remember his name, but they essentially had a coffee class years ago.
Yeah.
And they showed different ways to do a pour over and a French press.
Mhm.
And I just found it interesting because I've always liked coffee.
Yeah. They do barista training as well. They have a wealth of knowledge over there. I really like them. So that might be a good segue into kind of talking a little bit more about my business. And I remember on the little questions that you sent, it's like one of them prompted me to think about this, and I don't know if we'll get there or not, but I kind of want to talk about it. Going back to the whole idea of a nexus being like the point where things come together. I read this book one time by John Mackey called Conscious Capitalism. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't.
So John Mackey's the CEO of Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is big for a reason. It's quite an interesting book. He has this whole idea of like including more people as stakeholders than just the people who have a financial incentive, and the environment being one of them. He also proposes this idea in there called like a win-win-win method. Instead of everyone trying to vertically integrate, you horizontally lean on people. So I lean on Ghost Town for not only my beans, but I lean on them for my tinware and my coffee techs. Shout out to Lamplighter. They come from there as well. I get my flavors and syrups and stuff from them as well. So a large function of my business leans on them for that. I don't get my food or anything like that from them. That's where I lean on someone else. So the idea is that we're kind of all in this little ecosystem. If I were to vertically integrate, I wouldn't kind of be spreading any of the like wealth around, you know what I mean? So I like to partner with different businesses and kind of bring it all together at the nexus at my coffee hut.
That's very cool. I'll check myself and ask myself if I'm being too much of an idealist, but that's the ideal scenario for me.
Yeah.
And then there's a connection to the community.
100%.
I'm using those businesses. They're using our businesses.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the spirit of this podcast. I can promote all these businesses, and we can all make each other better, and we can all complement each other.
100%. It's absolutely. And you're doing it in a very direct way. You're like, hey, check these guys out. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, why not? If you guys are a great business, it's my clients are going to be happier when I send them to you and they get a better experience. That's going to reflect on us and the entire community.
Totally.
And we all will literally, the model that you just used makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Do you have a background in coffee? Do you have a love for coffee?
This is going to be disappointing for everyone. No, I don't. My background in coffee is coffee huts. And I do love coffee, but I'm not one to treat it like wine.
Yeah.
I think in my future, there is going to be more of that. I've done a lot of traveling, especially a lot of traveling in Latin America, and it does interest me to check out coffee farms and things like that. But I'm kind of more interested in the business side of things.
That I can relate, and it happens a lot. Unfortunately, as people, an artist will be very interested in something and do something, but they have no business sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are in business for a reason. They have a business sense. I love business.
Yeah.
Luxury transportation is great, but I'm not just dying to, drive people around every day. It's a part of what I do, and it's a big part of why I do this, because I've always enjoyed talking to people.
Yeah.
And that's what you do a lot when you're driving people around.
Totally.
But I love business, and I just enjoy the different ways people approach it, the thought processes.
100%. And you can, as I was discussing earlier, you can become an arm of someone else's business who are experts.
Yeah.
Ghost Town Chad, he knows everything about coffee. They're importing the best stuff. So they're kind of experts. I don't necessarily have to be,
Yeah. I just think of your model, because we'll just go down a business rabbit hole, but it makes so much sense from a economic standpoint there's just not all that massive amount of capital, and you can focus on the quality of the product and supporting those businesses.
Totally.
When you've got a massive payment over your head of a giant infrastructure that can really, and I just like the way that you scaled to more of those efficient locations versus let's put another 50 seats in this same location.
Yeah. And it's tough. I think with the coffee model in particular, like a restaurant, you want more seats.
Yeah.
Because you can serve more heads, you get more meals out, and that's great. A coffee shop is hard because people are often renting your spot for $4 for 4 hours. If you think about it like that, a table at a coffee shop, someone comes in to get one latte, they sit down and edit their video for 3.5 hours. That's kind of tough. You're not getting a lot of return on your square footage there. That's another reason why I like the coffee shop model.
Yeah, it's interesting. The episode came out today, Carrie from Kiln, that's opening up.
Okay.
And that's the co-working space.
Yeah. Is that the Old Town and Country?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's a huge need, from what I understand, for co-working, public working spaces in Bozeman. And people are going to coffee shops all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the guy's name, but at the ghost town over there off of Bridger Drive, I swear I've seen him in there for years. He's always working.
Some guys posted up there.
I think it's like, that's his office.
It's his office. And if you think about it, even if he spends $15, $30 a day, that's cheaper than a co-working space for the day. So I think the brick and mortar coffee shops might struggle with that component, which is why I like the hut model.
Yeah. It's not like you're turning them over and kicking them out and the next people in.
Yeah.
When you said all this land being developed, these bigger apartment buildings, what are your thoughts on those sort of models for coffee shops and businesses?
I think it's tough. I've actually have direct experience with a couple recently, and they think as developers, they're paying premium for the land that they're getting. And so they want to turn around and charge it. Sadly, I think because of that, the future of any of these are going to be large businesses who have mega capital, who can do these 30-year investments, I've had 2 experiences recently trying to get into some shops where it's just like, I'm like, dude, this doesn't pencil,
Yeah. I mean, if you've got a franchise all over the country, it's going to make sense to you. You're kind of growing this global brand, and that's your next Starbucks. But if you're a bootstrap, if you're funding it yourself or trying to raise capital,
it's tough. And I think the other thing that we're going to see change here is we're going to see. Okay, so I'll just kind of lay this out because people might be interested in this too.
I am even.
Okay, so these people who I've been meeting with, and a lot of these big developments, we can say the one guy who everyone knows his name. I'm not going to say any of the other guys' names, but Andy Holleran, for example. Yep. None of this is his money, or at least it wasn't to start. He got big time backers, and he's managing someone else's money. They know real estate's a good investment. They know Bozeman's a hot spot. He's taking rich people's money, putting it in here, and developing what we need, which is more housing. Okay.
There's other hotels.
Oh, hotels too. Yeah. And no, I know, and I'm not really taking a stance on any of this. I'm just saying through my experience, especially through being a business owner, seeing what's going on here, trying to be, a young person to make it in this town. It's not easy. Especially if you're trying to like get into some property. The other developers are doing the exact same thing. They're extremely smart dudes who are managing some anonymous billionaire's money. And these guys are typically from the East Coast, and they're bringing a work ethic that isn't really prominent here in the town. A lot of deals that I've struck up in just ways that other local businesses operate. It's kind of like handshake stuff, Yeah. Oh, hey, I know you through here. How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Well, there's this kind of wave of people who a lot sometimes don't even live here, and they see this as a hot market. They have almost unlimited funds backing them, and they are making these gigantic moves that it's just hard for the little guy to play in that. And so they expect a return because it's their job and they want to keep their job and they're really good at their job. So they need a return on this big move that they're making. So that's why the prices of everything is so high. The issue with that with apartments is that is probably going to fall at the bottom here pretty soon because we built way too much. With commercial spaces, there are people who can take on those massive leases, unlike apartments. Apartments, you need people who are living here. Commercial spaces, you can bring in these big corporations. So there's really smart people backing with a huge bank accounts of anonymous people, and they're demanding this large return. And the only people who can fill that large return are large businesses. And that's going to be the future of things going forward, as far as from my perspective at this point.
That makes a lot of sense. I can tie it into similar trends that I notice in my industry specifically. So
yeah, tell me about that.
So this company I started 5 years ago, the transportation,
Yep.
literally me, one vehicle.
Yep.
And it's, it's slowly grown over time as I've decided to. And it takes a lot of work to get a brand out there and get a name out there
Yes.
and be trusted. And I have a lot of handshake deals with people that are, whether it's a hotel owner that refers us and we've showed them repeated service, or somebody that manages a bunch of second homes.
Yeah.
And there's some other companies that you would have no idea that they even exist.
Yeah.
They don't have a website, but they have these big contracts because they have this level of capital.
Yep.
And they say, we have this many vehicles. There's a company that moved here from the Salt Lake area.
Yeah.
And they'll get a big contract, and they don't have a brand or a name because they don't need to, because they have a contract.
Yep.
So it can be very disadvantageous for a business of my size, because I can't guarantee you 15 vehicles.
100%. And they can take that risk because they have more to lose.
Yeah.
Or they have the ability to lose more than you do, right? So if you took a big contract, you've got all these vehicles, all of a sudden they don't need that. You lose that contract. Now you have these leases on these 15 vehicles that might sink you.
Yeah, fast.
And it would sink you fast. But this company that has this large operation, 15 vehicles, and they might just be able to move it somewhere else. They might be able to liquidate it quickly. They might be able to take a loss. They can leverage themselves more than the little guy can. And that's just the kind of nature of things.
And likewise to that model that you described earlier, what's been the biggest benefit is me working with the other small companies.
Yes.
Because if we combine our 3 fleets, we now have that big fleet, and we can now do this corporate trip.
Totally.
We did some corporate retreats this summer, and I did a third of it, and I hired one other company and one independent operator. It was great.
Yeah.
They made great money. I was able to make money.
Yeah.
And otherwise it would have been, hey, we can't do that. Call the big guys.
Yep. It's quite cool. And I think it kind of goes to I think it kind of points to the ethos of like Montana.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Like, I know we're growing, but like growing up here, we're way out here, and you kind of just have the people around you, and you have to work together to achieve things, and it's interesting when that starts to, it's cool to see it play out, and it's interesting that it's starting to change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in my industry, when it gets busy, it gets really busy. And the reason I can say yes to most or all the people is because I can lean on these guys.
Yeah.
And then it's a two-way street, especially if it's a good relationship.
Yeah.
The problem is sometimes we get too caught up in competing with each other.
Yeah.
And we can complement each other. The competition is the giant corporate company that's brought in everyone from out of state, and
it could be a win-win situation. You know what I mean? You're bringing in all these different people. And I think this is probably a good point just to make to your listeners. Like, I know everyone's always like, support local, but on, it's a direct way, like you said, to get involved with the community. And there are people on the other side of this who have, rents and mortgages and bills, and they're supporting employees, and it's not just supporting you, you're also supporting all these other folks. And so, yeah, I don't know, support local. I think it's a lot more fun. It adds more flavor and insight to where you actually are.
Yeah, I was showing you earlier, if we were recording, Shout out to Jacobus.
Yeah.
And let me say it
Gesundheit.
right. Gesundheit. Gushundi. Gesundheit. I see him at the gym all the time in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to his store and I buy some of his stuff and he
Yeah.
comes and sits down and does the podcast. And that's it's a fun way to live.
100%.
You feel very connected to your community.
100%. And that's, really important for, kind of like your well-being.
I couldn't agree more.
And, there's a lot of people visiting and like, I think this podcast is designed for those people to listen and like, hey, if you like this place and you want to feel connected, like easiest sure shot way to do that, is.
And if you're local, whether it's a new local or a longtime local.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the coolest. So you bring up the term new local, which I love. And I think that the beauty of Bozeman is people moving here, because I am from small town Montana and I do have, I travel to these places. Man, some of them are hard up. They're not having people move there. They don't have industry. Their schools are struggling. Like it can be pretty sad to be in a place that is not growing. So it's hard when people complain about the growth in Bozeman because it's like, hey, it's the reason why it's a good place to be is because of all this new stuff. And I might have lost my train of thought on the new local. No, I brought it back. So what would be cool is if these people, I have this theory about people moving here. A lot of them come from places that aren't connected to the business. I call them like the Bozeman Anonymous, where they move here, their job is elsewhere. They're used to going to chain stores. And then they move here and they're like, well, where's the Starbucks? Because in every other city, there's a Starbucks on every street, but we only have a handful, if that, And so they're curious. They're like, where's the Starbucks to trying to get to that place? Because that's just kind of what they're conditioned to be. I call it like suburbia. A lot of the United States is like that. And I think Bozeman is unique in the sense where it's not like that.
I can directly relate to what you're saying because I told you I grew up on a dairy farm.
Yep.
And we're 2.5 hours north of New York City.
Mm.
The reason a lot of people don't know this, New York has the third most dairy farms per state in the U.S.
Did not know that.
It's a big state.
Yeah.
It's a lot of farms upstate. The reason is all that agriculture supports that giant city.
Yep.
Over half the population of the entire state is in this tiny, isolated corner.
Little island, yeah.
But all that's, if you think as the population grew, everything around became this demand for agriculture.
Yeah.
And I don't think many of the people, from what I hear, just even comprehend that.
Yeah.
Oh, where did this milk come from? Where did this coffee come from?
100%. Yeah. People are, it plays right into what, I was discussing about people just kind of expect goods. They don't know where they come from. I imagine you're a hunter.
Yeah.
That's like the most direct way of, or that's the most kind of direct connection to where your things come from. You're a hunter and a farmer. Damn, man, I pulled this thing out of the ground. I, harvested this animal, and you're connected to where your things are coming from. But for the case for a lot of Americans, that's not it. So I really think this podcast is hopefully a cool bridge. And I think this is the whole ethos of it is to connect people to, hey, where are these businesses coming from? Here's a little insight to this coffee guy. Maybe you want to go support him.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not? Just from hearing your story, it makes me glad that I've already supported your business and I want to again because it's cool the ethos of Mountain Mule Media is connecting Montana.
Yeah.
And we are so fortunate to live in a time right now where we can find out where our food came from and where, everyone's connected.
100%. And it's cool, as business guys, it's cool to have a business to have that interface with the community. I was pretty conscious of it. It sounds like you were too. I was pretty conscious when I started this business that this is my interface with the community. People are going to not necessarily, it's like something to connect the community to who I am and what I stand for. And I have another friend who grows organic mushrooms.
Okay.
Or he grows gourmet mushrooms, sorry. And he's, people ask him, oh, are you obsessed with mushrooms? And he's like, not necessarily, he's like borderline a mushroom expert, but he is very clear that his favorite part of his business and the reason that he wakes up and loves to continue his business is because it's his interface with the community. He gets to connect with all the restaurant owners. He gets to go to the farmer's market, talk to all the people. They get to learn about him. He's an insanely charismatic dude. You should absolutely have him on this podcast.
Please, I always ask for recommendations. So.
Oh yeah, Ben is the man.
Cool.
And I'll give you his contact when we leave, but it'd be a great conversation to have with him. He's very clear. Like, the reason I love doing this is because it's my interface with the community.
I couldn't agree more. And I'll tell you a fun story that makes this all line up. So I play in a men's baseball league, have for the last 5 or 6 years.
Right up the road here.
We actually play in Belgrade.
Oh, okay.
We play where the club team plays.
Got it. Okay.
These are all I don't think they do any baseball games here. Just softball.
Yeah. So
this summer we had our playoffs coming up, and our coach Joe said, "Hey, we're gonna go hit down at the 406 lab."
Yep.
Went down there, and I played baseball my whole life, and I didn't know it was there. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Look at this facility.
State of the art.
Yeah. So first thing I do is reach out, send an email, get connected with Aubrey. She's like, "Oh, do you play for Joe?" Yep. Yeah, I play for Joe. He's awesome. Joe coaches the club team. She gives me your contact.
Yep.
It's full circle. I couldn't be more excited and proud to be connected.
Now we're sitting here. I'm going to push people towards your transportation. You might push them towards my coffee, whatever. It's cool. Yeah. It seems like a positive spiral.
Yeah. It's, and no disrespect to to who it is. Fortunately, I don't remember the name and I wouldn't drop it anyway, but I had recently found out through some contacts and business people I know that there's a company that does what I do, and they've got like a fleet of 20, and I got in contact with the guy, and essentially, we have these contracts with the club, and you won't find us anywhere. You don't know who we are. And I thought of that. I'm like, oh, there's these two models that you can take. You can be very public facing, and comes with all the potential repercussions of that.
Totally.
But if you don't, you miss out on all the opportunities to really get to know businesses like yours.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot of work and it's a lot of risk when you put yourself out there, but it's very rewarding.
Totally. And I've been in both positions as well, where sometimes you don't want to be like the face of your business, and I think as you scale, it's actually beneficial to be less of that, because it's just going to keep demanding more, at least in maybe the operations sense. So I always tell people, don't bake yourself into your business. The business does need a face though. So that club contract company, they likely just are staying in their lane, and that's cool. But like you said, they're missing out on a lot of the interfacing. But the club is also very private as well.
Yeah. Right.
Like, those people aren't often might not be trying to interface. There's some people like that guy I mentioned earlier who moved to this town and they're like, hell yeah, we're here, and like we're going out to restaurants, and we're these are like big time people, and they just want to live in this town. And then there's other people who are just looking for their mountain escape, and I think that's all right as well.
And we have plenty of those clients, and it's it's discreet, and they're getting picked up, and they're getting dropped off, and that's fine, and that's the nature of the business. And the cool part about this is this part of it can be for anyone. Yeah. So whether you're if you just get something from the podcast and find out about some cool businesses that do align with what you're trying to do, awesome. Yeah. Totally. And if you need private transportation, great too. And if you don't, like,
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal at all.
Well, it's really cool because you're providing value with your business in another way. Yeah. And it's impressive.
Yeah, it's been very satisfying for me, because I was gonna say hated, but it bummed me out that I couldn't just do more for the local community too, just because of the price point of some of our stuff, and I totally get it. Yeah, but
and that's the nature of it. But it's cool that you have another leg of the business to kind of provide value for free to the public. Yeah.
So if anyone else wants to come get your coffee and support you, what do they do? Drive by, stop in, buy coffee?
Yeah. Cruise in, check it out. When I started out, one of the frustrating things people would tell me is that they say, oh, I drove by your coffee hut. I'm like, cool. And they're like, but you weren't there. I'm like, dog, like, I make money the same. Like, if you like, I don't have to be there for you to support me, and that's where kind of the face of the business thing can bite you in the butt. Like, if I were to hire you out and I was like, oh, I don't get Tim as a driver, like, I'm gonna go with this other guy.
Oh, I've, like, my longtime clients have, they kind of joke, but they come at you and they're like, oh, you don't pick me up anymore. You don't do the early trips. And then on the occasion when I do, oh, I got the big boss. What did
Yep.
I do
Oh my
today?
God, I get that every time I show up to the hut. Yeah.
I'm like, you're happy for me when I'm struggling by myself, but I've hired one guy now, and
Yeah.
I get shamed
Yeah.
eternally for it.
But I think it speaks to the personal connection and how
Yeah.
valuable that is. And then also, it kind of speaks to your team. It's like, oh, hopefully you hire someone really
Yeah.
cool to, kind of represent your business in that way. Cause it's like, hey, I don't care if I have Tim or Joe, Joe's cool too. So
Yeah. And I've been very fortunate that I've got some great guys and gals working for me that
yeah,
help represent the brand and what we
yeah,
do. And
it's important. You're
yeah.
building a team. Yeah.
Anything else any advice you got for entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Uh, don't make yourself into your business. Um, what else? Yeah, definitely the people matter. I think that's really important. And that's one of the things that we've taken a lot of pride in is hiring just really cool, outgoing people who represent the brand. And I think it's kind of the differentiator of why you might want to come to us is you have a positive experience. What other advice would I give? God, probably a bunch that wouldn't speak well to my business, but yeah, I would probably have a product if I were to ever have another business.
Yeah.
Dealing with land and employees and all that. It is a lot. But one thing I wanted to kind of slide in here, it sounds like we're winding down. I actually don't have the Belgrade location anymore.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Yeah, I sold it 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, congrats if it was good.
It was a great,
yeah.
It was a great sale. So, yeah, to anybody listening, that location's no more, but please go support Lisa Bourbon Coffee Co.
Okay,
she's
cool.
she's the one who purchased it from me, and she's already up and going. So
Nice.
yeah.
I mean, and props on you for for plugging her and supporting her. And
100%. Yeah.
I'm sure you made the sale for the right reasons. And
yeah. Well, it was a really bizarre thing. I had 3 people approach me unsolicited. I didn't. I wasn't listed or anything like that, and I was like, okay, I think I need to answer this call. What about you? What's the future of your business look like?
Depending on if I will grow a little bit more. I'm just trying to where I'm at right now. I kind of want to perfect what I have.
Yep.
And then I want to lean into this podcast and do as much, as the demand shows for it.
Yeah.
And it's, I have certain days that I'm recording and doing this and days that I'm managing employees and doing books and promoting that business.
Yeah.
Yeah. As the model still makes sense. And, it's a crazy world right now with technology. I can't help but think there's going to be autonomous cars at some point.
100%.
So, and that's a reality. I can either deny it and avoid it as long as I want.
You can buy one.
Face it. Yeah.
You can employ a fleet.
Exactly.
I know a lady in town who's a part of the business group that I'm in. She has a cleaning service and she had robots for commercial cleaning. And I saw them and it was a trip and I was like, damn. And that's one of the biggest issues with commercial cleaning is employees.
Yeah.
Really hard to find.
That's smart.
She bought some fucking robots.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys have a website?
Yeah, nexusdriveup.com. Probably a better place to find us would be our Instagram, which is nexus.driveupcoffee. And yeah, those are the only places we are.
And you guys have the punch cards for regular?
Yeah, we got the punch cards. Yeah, come through, buy 10 coffees, get one free. It's the OG. We keep it on the card with the stamp and yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you, man. And I'm excited to get this out there. And hopefully some more people stop in and support what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And likewise for you. I hope everything goes great with transportation. And I think that you'll have plenty of really awesome conversations on the podcast.
Yeah. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening, folks. You can find the full blog post for every episode along with key takeaways and links at mountain-mule.com. If you haven't yet, consider following the show. That one small action helps these Montana businesses get seen, grow, and thrive, and it helps this podcast keep going too. If you know a business that would be a good fit for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Just reach out through the website or social. Thank you for supporting these Montana businesses. See you on the next show.